Can you just briefly tell me what your board and marks was? Those of you appeared before. 160. $165. So for the rest of you, there is a message in what they have spoken, and that message is that if by any chance you get the range of marks ranging anything less than 160, you have to attend this session again. All right. The good news is that we have enough time. The good news is that we have enough time, resources, and guidance available to ensure that we do not have to, we should have just one shot at the personality test and we should be able to rock it. We should be able to do quite well. A key to doing quite well in the interview is, one of the keys to doing quite well in the interview is not making the mistakes. If you just stop short of not making mistakes, you will do quite well. In fact, when you join bureaucracy, a very common saying is that if you are above average in everything, you will be excellent in bureaucracy. And I can tell you that if you are above average in all aspects, you will do quite well in life as well. Right? But this balancing part is sometimes difficult. We are extremely good, for example, for writing 3 hours tests, and which is why we'll be here. But we will not be good at facing someone for 20 minutes without irritating, embarrassing, or boring them sometimes. So remember that interview is like most of the things, you will have to assume for, yes, please come in. For all practical purposes, you will have to assume, and it is good if you do so, that assume that it is a skill set which can be acquired. For the personality test is a skill set that can be acquired. Do not think of it that otherwise sometimes when you will meet people who have not been able to score well, you will not find anything wrong in their personality per se. They are people with excellent credentials, and you will not be able to see that this is my third interview. I had a AIMS neurosurgeon third interview and said, "Ki sir, is baar bhi, I am hoping that this time I should get good marks. I'm a top. To get neurosurgery in AIMS, you have to be the best among the best, right?" And I would take his mock interview, and he would suddenly have an emergency duty, something like that. It was, you know, so we have to keep some things in mind if we do take care of those things. So today's session, if we try to, all right. What is the brief agenda of this session? Filling up what? Huh? The DAF, the detailed application form. What components of it? First, what would you like to discuss? Okay. Interests and hobbies. Second, graduation. Cadre preferences. The issue of home state. Anything else? Service preferences. Very good. Wonderful. So this is what we'll stick to in today's session. If I go very fast, please show discontent by making some gestures so that I know that I'm going fast or I'm not understandable. All right. So the first thing that we'll take up is, because you have asked me some things, in your um, in this is something that we all have to fill up, right? So first thing, is what should we fill up in prizes, medals, scholarships when we have none? That is the primary question. So this candidate, so in prizes, medals, and scholarships, because the special emphasis on university, state, national level. But in effect, this template has been there for at least 1 decade since I know. And most of the students, if you have any achievements, including school level achievements, you can very well fill it up. Till now, I have not seen, if you have any achievements in the field of, sports or any other prizes that you have gotten at the university level, at the school level, you can fill it up. If you have no such achievements, people have filled up any achievement that they have had in school, even in 6th grade or 10th grade. All right, that is fairly acceptable. All right, any achievement that you have had at school, people have filled up. That's one. Second is, just because you do not have any achievements and you have tried to portray your 6th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade achievements as prizes, medals, and scholarships, if you're trying to do it, don't overdo it. One of the key ways to identify, like in mains, one of the key ways to identify a person who doesn't know his answer is when somebody has overwritten a factual question. Right, so here also do not overdo it. If you do not have anything to write, you can either leave it blank, and as you can see, this candidate has left it blank. For 2 consecutive years, this candidate has appeared for the interview, secured a rank in top 10. This candidate has secured both the years service allocation to this candidate has happened, and both these years we had a discussion, and this candidate says that, sir, in sports, I have never been in a distinct leadership or in sports. Should I leave it blank? Both the years, this candidate, she left it blank and she has been able to secure a good rank in both these years. So that is not something that you have to worry about. If you write any school level achievements here of any prize that I was awarded, the best student prize, don't overdo it. Like don't write 5 prizes. All right, because write 1, 2, or 3 at max. Second, with respect to sports or NCC, what will be recommended here is that you should have played a sport. What will be expected here is that you should have played a sport, cricket, football, any other sport that you may have played, either at school level or university level, you can put it. If you have not played sport and only watched it, if you have not played sport and only watched it, as would be the case with a lot of you, 8 out of 10 people mostly, you can as well, you can put it in your interests that watching cricket. But do not try to put it in sports or NCC, especially if you have not played it at all. Why I'm saying this is, the personality test to some in different parts, it will be at least one part of it is a due diligence test. I have always said this before if you have seen any classes. So if what I would want is, as a civil servant or as a retired civil servant, what my expectation will be, that what is there on the paper and what is there in front of me, they should be congruent. Like if you have running as a hobby and you look quite overweight, then there's some dissonance ki ye theek nahi likhta hai. Then what happens is I also doubt the other things. You write athlete and you don't look athletic. I will do some sort of due diligence or some sort of perception. So there should be some level of congruence between what is you have written on the paper versus what is you on the ground. This is my expectation here. Okay. Positions of distinct leadership held in school and college. If you have nothing, leave it, but you always can be a school monitor or a class monitor or the head boy of a school for which no degrees are awarded. All right, so those are fairly acceptable since decades that I have been here, and nobody has asked questions on those things. These will not be the problem areas for you. All right, so you could have position of, but if that is filled in your DAF, please expect sometimes a fact-finding question, and sometimes a HR-related question. A fact-finding question, I'll explain to you. An HR-related question could be that you have been in a leadership position. Tell me 3 or 4 major qualities of a leader. And somebody who has been in a leadership position will probably answer that. The good news is that those who have not been in a position of leadership can also answer that if you have reflected upon it sufficiently. If you have not reflected upon it, some students have come back with a very bad face and say, sir, they asked me very HR type private interview type question that what is your strength, what is your weakness, and they asked me they tell me 3-4 qualities of leadership. So for 4, I was able to tell. Then they have asked that, sir, add 2 more qualities of leadership. So if you are going to write something there, please reflect. Please reflect sufficiently that what could be the 5 things that could be asked from what I have written here. All right. Then other extracurricular activities and interests such as hobbies. Here, this is one tricky thing which you must be aware of. See, when we write hobbies and interest here now, what is a hobby? Hobby is an activity that is pursued at leisure. I repeat, hobby is an activity that is pursued at leisure. Here, two schools of thought here. Some students believe, one stream of thought belongs to we have after the us and why hobbies gardening as a hobby in your generation, given that he was too busy with his phone. Written gardening or as a hobby, too busy with the distraction position. Understand who has gardening as his own hobby, there would be some sort of at least a where he was not given. I have you. Can you be so the good? You are from Old Rajendra Nagar. Anybody else has visited Old Rajendra Nagar? Very good. If I ask you, so you have written something like, I am coming from Old Rajendra Nagar. My basic due diligence question will be that what did you see there? And I expect something on the lines, these days of COVID, those things don't exist. But conventional Rajendra Nagar is something that is The payments are taken over by hawkers. There are too many vehicles. A lot of people throw garbage on the streets. And I'd also like to hear that stray dogs are sometimes a menace if you are alone at night. These are something very basic observations that I would like to hear. If I say that, okay, you went to Old Eye, what did you say? What did you see? If I ask this question, I would expect things like, sir, there were a lot of bookshops. We saw maximum number of bookshops where books and Xerox material was being sold. Very normal answer, but if you talk something very fancy, then I will definitely have a feeling that this person has not visited the place. And because this person looks not genuine to me, I don't know about the rest of the application form also. Okay? Here, some of you have asked questions that in interest, I have the interest of visiting old age homes, social service, and I have the hobby of visiting child reform homes and all that. Now, these things, remember, in the pursuit of these hobbies, please remember that the board is looking for somebody who will do his work. There is no higher expectation of a social activist. There is no special requirement of a social activist or a social reformer. If any of you have those, your DAF is not essentially, because some of you may have this line of thought that it should be an SOP for Harvard University or something like that. It is not, there is perfectly all right if you do not have a very social angle. In fact, some of the people who have scored quite well, I have not seen that apart from very normal things, I have not seen a very high social angle. What is the reason? Always ask why. Whenever I say something, please question it. Do not accept anything that even I say dogmatically. See, some students, when they write about old age homes, and sometimes they will write about child reforms that, sir, in my hobby and interest is that I go to child reform homes, where if somebody has committed a crime, a child has committed a crime, and juvenile justice board says that he must be sent to a child reform home. So now, when you write something like this, I am likely to have some spark in my mind. Have any of you, for example, visited a child reform home? So what will happen is some people will write something like this thinking that my resume or my DAF looks very good, it looks very social, it looks that I am very reform oriented. See here, the person who's sitting in front of you is exactly like you plus 30 years of experience. Secondly, he's a little smarter than you plus 30 years of experience. Why I'm saying a little smarter? Because at their time, the opportunities were not so varied. The best of the crowd came for civil services. As of your times, we would not definitely say that the best of the crowd. I'm going to say a brilliant crowd comes for civil services, but I would not say that this is the only opportunity for the brightest minds in the country. Whereas, if you see the 80s, it was the best opportunity. So there are people who are exactly like you to some extent, maybe brighter than you at their time plus 30 years of experience. So it would be something like you're telling something that they are not able to see it realistically. When they have visited an old age home, they have often found that the number one problem in an old age home is they are unable to find a person who will be doing the cleaning work, like cleaning toilets and all, because aging population, geriatric care, they are unable to find workers who are willing to do the cleaning work and take care of the senior citizens. Okay, this is the primary problem. In a child reforms home, the first observation that you will have is most of the children, at least the dominant group in a child reforms home, will be people who will be older, like 23, 24. But their birth certificate has their age as what? As minors. This is my experience when I went to one place. All right, in fact, 2 or 3 places. So he is written as a minor, he is completely grown up and habitual offender at times. Whereas what you have seen is you have seen some movies where there is a beautiful girl who goes and gives flowers to the children, or you have imagined that and you have been thinking that and you've just worked one day in an NGO and after that your civil services preparation has taken precedence. कि छोड़ो यार NGO छोड़ो, अभी पढ़ाई करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो मेंस जाएगा या प्रीलिम्स में बाहर हो जाएंगे, इंटरव्यू में बाहर हो जाएंगे 100%. बैठकर पढ़ लो, होम स्टेट प्रिपेयर कर लो, डोंट डू द NGO वर्क. दिस may have taken precedence, and on that basis if you'll write something like this, as a civil servant, I see that the ground reality is very different, and your idea of that, you know, your idea of that service is very different. Then I will have a problem. It means that you have not done any social service. So those of you who are very inclined to put NGO service, if at least you have worked for at least 30 days or something, please put it. If you have not worked, just gone for 2-3 days and you think that you will be able to make it up, don't do that. Why? Because the person who's sitting in front of you has worked with many NGOs. Has worked with many NGOs. He also knows what is the ground reality of NGOs and what is the biggest challenge with NGOs. So he is likely to ask you those questions, and there you may not be able to meet the due diligence test. I am, pardon me, but I'm only speaking what not to do than rather than to do what is to be done. Okay? But I'll come to that part also, and that probably can be based on what preferences you are thinking of filling up. Another note with respect to extracurricular activities and interests such as hobbies is that if that hobby, if you are too ashamed to ask me that, sir, shall I put this as a hobby? Because you think that everybody will come to know, it's so private to you. If you are too ashamed to ask in this class, it is bad enough not to be filled up in the DAF. If you think that it is so private that you would only want to discuss with me in the cabin next door and not in an open classroom, if you're so embarrassed about it, then probably it's not the best of hobbies. Having said that, what I have seen most people fill up is these as per actuals, but in extracurricular activities and hobbies, people have put reading fiction novels and or reading non-fiction. When they have done so, at least they have read or revised 3 to 4 books. All right, if they have revised 3 to 4 books. That is something that my expectation will be, so that I'll say that what is the last book you have read. All right, if you are into books, you will also have to know that they've invariably boards have often asked questions on Chetan Bhagat. The question that why popular literature such as Chetan Bhagat is doing well, but serious literature is not doing well. What is your take on this? So these questions you will have to have pondered over. If you have put non-fiction, there will be questions on what benefit, tell me one good book that you have read on non-fiction, what benefit did you get from it? Or what is the message of the book? So you should be able to summarize the message of the book in 2, 3, 4, 5 lines at max. Don't dump the whole story. All right, don't dump the whole story. If I were to ask you that you have read Dan Brown's Digital Fortress, I would need what is it about. Then I do not want to start with the story. Once there was a man in Sicily. All right, that is not accepted. Just 3, 4 lines. Ki, sir, this is the story about a thriller story about this and this person, and this is how it has gone. People have also very safely put diary writing as a hobby. People have very safely put diary writing as a hobby. It's a reflective hobby. It's a good hobby. People have also put cooking as a hobby. Those people who write poetry have put writing poetry or reading poetry as a hobby. Few things not to do is, if you have read Devdutt Patnaik's one book, if you have just read one book of Devdutt Patnaik, anybody has read any one book of Devdutt Patnaik? Let us be more vocal. Have you heard of any book written by Devdutt Patnaik? Can you, Jaya? So it will. What is the book about? Story of Mahabharata Ripuru. Please do not. So just on the basis of one book, what not to do is, don't put like reading. I have genuine interest in Ramayana and Mahabharata. See, whatever interest you have in Ramayana and Mahabharata by reading one book of Devdutt Patnaik, 30 years later you will have much more knowledge. Also because you have a lot of free time. Okay, so I still remember there was a candidate. So he had written these interesting stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, and boy, he was very well prepared. All right, to interview him, when I saw this, I read 3, 4 books on Mahabharata and Ramayana so that I could grill him. He was very well prepared, and because he had already written it, there was nothing I could do to say him at that point of time that ye kyun likh diya. But at the end of it, I did say, ki, did you take any input from anyone? He said, ki, yes, sir, I did, but now I feel that because in different boards, senior citizens or the elderly board members are asking difficult questions. So I did, in the end, did tell him that, in my opinion, you could have done much better if you had not put this, because this is one area where you would be grilled. He did over prepare for it, and also because he was, I guess, at that time 97 or 99 born, so I was very excited because he was a young candidate visiting forum. He did miss. He got a rank in 90s, and also because of certain height criteria, he did not get IPS. He got IRS that year. Then next year again, I saw him appearing for the interview. So I said, this time DAF may have you filled Mahabharata and Ramayana? Very nicely named that this time I have not filled it. Because last time I was grilled by the bot. And thankfully he got under 30 rank. All right, 26 precisely, as far as I can remember. So uh, my point here is that another thing not to do is you have read, for example, Rashmi Rathi, and you are thinking of reading Hindi poetry. Just 2 years back before this candidate, I had a candidate who had written Hindi poetry, and he had prepared at least 3-4 major poets. Rashmi Rathi, I recited with him sitting in this room some poems as well. But when the interview happened, there was bloodshed. They asked him 5 or 6 poets, none of whose names, wait for it, I had heard, leave alone him. ठीक है, मैंने भी नहीं नाम सुना था, तो वो नोट डाउन करके लाया था कि सर ये वेरी डिजेक्टेड ही केम. थैंकफुली मार्क्स थोड़े बहुत इधर उधर हुए, दैट कुड हैव बीन डन बेटर. थैंकफुली ही गॉट अ 97 98 रैंक, एंड that year he got IAS thankfully. After that year, you will, with a 97 rank, you will not be getting IAS now. And you also secured first rank in the forest service examination. ठीक है, so ये चीजें थोड़ी सी नहीं करनी है. If you keep hobbies very simple, that would be good. You can have hobbies very well like palmistry. People have done that, and board has said, okay, can you, sometimes the board members have said, acha, you are into palmistry, so can you tell me, just as for fun, they have asked something like this. I'm not sure what will happen during COVID times. People have also written, there is a word for it where people say that they are able to predict the personality on the basis of the handwriting. There is a word for it. I'm not able to remember. They have done this and they have not been grilled or questioned on those things. And so with respect to this section, हाँ, बोलिए. You have read, हाँ. See, the dynamics, very good. The dynamics are, so he's asking a question that if I have read The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini, may I be asked that A Thousand Splendid Suns is also a book by him, right? So will I be asked questions? So see, these are a little dynamic in nature. What happens is that I may have read A Thousand Splendid Suns, and therefore when you read The Kite Runner, I may ask, have you read this book also? So if you have not read it, it's perfectly all right. Don't take that burden. But you could very well, if you have read The Kite Runner, you should be very decently thorough with it, given that it is a popular book. And sometimes you may find board members who will remember few things about him. What is the opening lines of The Kite Runner? I became what I am when I was 10 years old. All right, तो इसको ध्यान में रखना, as well as please read search good quotes plus Kite Runner so that you know at least 4 or 5 good lines from it. Otherwise, the board will throw you a quotable quote and you will say, I have never heard of this. He said, this is from your favorite book. And the Kite Runner does have good quotes. All right, yes. So listening to what sort of music? When you say music, people do not at first assume. Yeah, so you can always write listening to Bollywood songs or listening to Hindi film songs, write that. When you say music, people do not always, though it is implicit that you must basically be listening to some Bollywood songs, but people sometimes do not assume, है ना, that. You write listening to Hindi film songs. Bollywood लिखोगे तो एक question होगा, why we are calling it Bollywood, don't you think this is a derogatory? इसलिए Hindi film songs you can write it. But then they will ask you also questions like, they will ask you question from some Sunil Dutt must be in the picture and पीछे background जो होगा इनका होगा, तो इसलिए थोड़ा सा listening to latest कर दोगे तो थोड़ा बच जाओगे, है ना, और new कर दोगे तो बच जाओगे. Otherwise they will ask you some 70s छोड़ो 50s 60s के song. Sometimes they have done so. हाँ. Yes. Yes. You can do that. People have done that, and you can do that. people. So his question is that can I watch TV series watching Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma, right? It is perfectly all right. The board is not that judgmental. You can write that watching TV series, watching English TV series. People have done that, and it is not created. These days, the board is extremely liberal in these terms. आप लिख सकते हैं कि sir I launched so sir it is just to entertain myself. Because after a hectic day at studies, I used to just watch it for half an hour. It used to relax me. Be very objective. If you are remember why this is acceptable is I'm telling you because it shows simplicity of his personality. Okay, but if he started something fancy like Breaking Bad, not that Breaking Bad has a problem, but if he told something, what is it about, and then the answer is something that is beyond my comprehension, then I'm scared that I don't understand what he does. Okay? Yes, so all of you, you can ask me what all hobbies are you trying to fill up? Yes, bolo. No, you can. No, that is not a problem. That the way you can write ballet dancing, you can do that. I have had students who have written with good ranks and good score, 195, 200 marks, who have written, like for example, dancing to dancing, yeah, for two YouTube videos or something like they have put it. Then there is another, or exercising. There is a word where you watch videos, fitness videos on YouTube, and then you dance and then you lose weight, something like this. This candidate is there. So she's, they have done it, huh? You could say reflective diary or diary writing. I write, sometimes I write diaries. You can write those, okay? हाँ बोलिए. Flying drones. Will you be able to answer a question that at least my expectation will be that at least you must have spent at least a dozen or 2 hours flying drones? That is fine enough. You should be able to answer questions that what are the biggest challenges. I'll ask you what is, if you have to fly drones here, what are the three things you'd look for? You'd look for an obstruction free space. बहुत simple होना. Think from a very, I'll ask a due diligence question. That will you just take a drone and fly it above this building? Probably you will, your first concern inside Dholpur house will be, sir, this is a high security zone and I may get into trouble. Very commonsensical questions and commonsensical answers. All right, that if I told you to fly a drone, would you fly it? You would say, sir, I think that this is a high security zone and may create concerns. जो भी आप जो real में है वो बातें करिएगा. Perfectly all right. Yes. Any of you? हाँ. It is better if you write because the spectrum becomes very wide. Increasingly, if you say reading books, what sort of books do you read? Now you will say, sir, both I read. Okay? You will say, sir, I read fiction also, non-fiction also. I will ask you 3 books names and you will not have read any. Okay? So instead, you try to focus on at least 2, 3 books that you recently read. Huh. You could say that, so you should have an answer for it and a logical one that appeals to common sense. A logical answer that appeals to common sense. So you said that, sir, I have reading books. Like, sir, I used to read fiction earlier, but now ever since I'm civil service preparation, I've started with non-fiction. All right. Yes, you're right. Watching cricket or following cricket, following cricket bhi likh do. They will ask one question. What is following cricket? What is, you don't watch, you just follow. Then you say, sir, I could not get the times, but I know what is broadly happening. Then the question will be, questions you should be prepared for is why cricket has so dominated the sports scenario in India. Then question, why other sports, what can we do to promote other sports? Questions will be on those lines. ठीक है? हाँ प्रीति बोलो. एक सेकंड. हाँ बोलो बच्चे. हम्म. You could write it, but you could say that, sir, I do है ना mobile phone photography और है ना मतलब mobile phone camera photography. So I do it via an, but you should know at least the 5 parameters, that what is है ना what is aperture and how does it work and what is the focal length. Those basics you should be doing and you should be preparing. Yes, yes, yes. You could do that. You could do that. It is better to write something like that. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. So if you play, it's wonderful. If you don't play, most people don't play, they just watch. You write watch. If you both play and watch, it is better to write play cricket. Then you will, they will, for example, from cricket, the common questions will be sometimes one question I told you, the other question will be that what is your favorite cricket moment? Now don't be point blank at those questions. That he has been following cricket as a hobby and then he's talking about something like, sir, when Kapil Dev won the World Cup. Okay, not so antiquated. I would want something realistic. ठीक है तो उसको देख कर जाना देर विल बी समबडी इन द बोर्ड हु वुड बी आल्सो अ क्रिकेट एंथुसियास्ट और क्वेश्चन पूछ लेंगे ठीक है इंक्लूडिंग क्वेश्चंस सच एज questions that why did we move to the T20 format 20 is it better is it the end of according to you the test cricket is it the end of test cricket है ना those things be very thorough any हाँ हम्म See, I have no way to verify that, no? If I ask you one question, what movie did you watch last? What movie did you watch last? Gangubai. All right. So I'll ask you what it is about. Then ask, okay, because I may have not watched that movie. Any other movie that you watched before it? You watched Spider-Man. Okay, so I'll ask you that what is the difference between these two movies as from an audience perspective, what is the difference that you it is all right. Yes, it is all right. Huh. No, that is not needed, but I would say that what is the difference in approach between Bollywood movies and Hollywood movies primarily? And see, no, so that is one thing. That is what you will be preparing. No, you don't have, but you will have to prepare. Anybody who loves to watch movies and who also watches both Spider-Man and Gangubai, if he's watching both of these, and he's a civil services aspirant, my expectation will be that he will, if I ask him to acha comparison kar do, what is the style difference between these two movies, he should be able to make at least a commonsensical analysis. This will be my expectation. This is something that you will have to prepare. है ना? Hmm. Hmm, hmm, hmm. That is perfectly all right. You can put some people have put some of you ask, can I put jogging as an interest or a hobby? People have put jogging as a hobby. People have put walking or long walks as a hobby. People have put running as a hobby. But you will get some technical questions like what is the difference between walking and running? And it is a conventional classical question that is asked every year. What is the difference? It's not so much speed, but when you walk, at least, when you run, you will have moments where both the legs will be in air. When you are running, there will be moments where you'll have both the legs in the air, and when you'll be walking, at least one leg will be on the ground. Okay, so now you should be aware of these things, and through your DAF analysis or mocks or one-on-one sessions, this will all be clear. हाँ बच्चे बोलो. No, that is not that is at all not a problem. What are your hobbies? Reading, food history. Wonderful, those are good hobbies. Those hobbies are little unique. So they will ask you what is the meaning of the word Sudoku. बताओ क्या है? Number phase. But I heard that this Sudoku originated in Japan. All right. But it originated. So you're saying that from France it went to Japan. Perfectly all right. ठीक है. So you can say, हाँ. You played hockey for some time. But see, some questions, basic questions will be with respect to who's the best hockey player from India. The men's team is doing better or the women's team is doing better. If you can answer those questions, it should find mention in your DAF. If you are not willing to answer those questions or not willing to prepare for them, it is not a good idea. If you are not willing to prepare and for a good conversation, I just ask you, like some of the stupidest answers will be like, uh, if a student has written that I like reading books. So with a smile on my face, I ask him, okay, what is the last book you have read? The student gives the answer, sir, first of all, for the past 3 years, I've been preparing for civil services, so I have not read any book. Now, this is a conversation breaker. I mean, it ruins my mood, and I don't know what to say next. Plus, then I know that the next hobby also, I'm now afraid to ask a second question. Okay, you have put cycling as a hobby, and then the student opens his mouth and says, sir, first of all. Now I'm worried. है ना? So all these things will fall in that category. हाँ बोलो बच्चे. So you have very precise 5-7 broad questions that you will be asked from this topic. You will get a DAF questionnaire or on a one-on-one session or in mock sessions. You will be able to get these database of questions. But 5 basic questions will be who's the right now the most popular proponent of this dance form. Then what can we do to save these dance forms? What is the difference between a folk dance and a classical dance? Should we give more further status? All these things, questions. See, always sometimes I want you to know that the questions that will be coming from here, a lot of times you can figure out that question just by giving that keyword to your friends, family, and parents and ask them to send you back a list of questions that comes to their mind when they see the word. All right? Huh. You played it in? See, the thing is, if you are asked this question, you could write it. People have written it. People have written it and they said that they've. No, people have written even in sports category. People have done that and they said, sir, I played at college level. That is what they have said. That is all right. Last year you have given the interview? 19. Anyone who was appeared for the interview last year? Azad, what all documents did they ask from you for verification? Yes. For the past 10 years, every time when a fresher goes for the personality test, he will carry the list of his certificates as if he's going for a job interview. And there the sir who will be there outside, he will say कि मुझे 2 documents दे दो. एक तो 10th का certificate for your date of birth proof, and the other is graduation certificate is something that I need. If caste certificate is there, caste and EWS certificate will be sought. All right? That is all. So they will not ask you for any certificate. Secondly, understand that they will not be influenced by it. One last thing that I want to tell you about this section is, there are, see what happens is, it is perfectly all right if you are not having too many hobbies, interest, extracurricular activities, prizes and medals. I am not going to judge you there. I will just not ask questions you from there. Second is, I still remember about 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago. I'm saying this because yesterday I got a call from a student who's asked the same questions which somebody had asked me 10 years back. So there was a very popular member on forum, Kammo was his name. Just because here we have Azad, he was here. So he just sent a DAF and he had good credentials from IIM Ahmedabad. And I remember he had filled up his DAF very meticulously with at least 6-7 points under each head, expecting the board to grill him. See, when you fill up too many things, what happens is, as board member or as commission, the expectations are on the higher side. So when somebody says that I have been working with Google, interned at Google, then at KPMG, then XYZ things, all these things if I put, my expectations will be on the higher side. Somebody says if you put that I have been working as a Prime Minister's Rural Development Fellow, I've been working at XYZ things, the expectations will be on the higher side and marking scheme will be on the basis of my expectation setting. I repeat, as I have done before, the interview in the final list, you will find candidates who are from top colleges with top degrees, and you will find candidates who are from open universities, have kids and in-laws to take care of, and they will also get direct IAS. All right? Both these kind. So the marking scheme is not absolute. It is with respect to what is my expectation from the candidate. If you are from a top tier college, my rating of yours will be respect to how your peers have done. All right. If you are from IITs, those of you are from IITs, For those who are not from IITs, I want to tell you that if there are people from IITs, there is no benefit to those candidates at all, because I will not be judging them from the same parameters, and I'll be judging the people who are not from IITs. Secondly, out of 10 candidates these days, what I'm seeing is that 7 are engineers, out of which at least 4 to 5 are from IIT or NIT. In fact, 4 would be from IITs. And there the quality is very, within the 10 candidates that if I am taking mocks, the quality variation is very high. Similarly, within the group of IIT and I would say in the within the group subgroup of IITs, the quality variation is also very high. Some students are extremely prepared. Some are computer science IIT Bombay and not prepared, and will invariably be getting allied service for 3 years in a row. There will be people very much like that. I have often found that people who are from medical science background and from AIMS, there the quality variation is not so much different. If a candidate is from AIMS, usually what I have seen is that they will generally be a very homogeneous crowd. They will be well prepared because the atmosphere in the college may be something like this. Within the IITs, the variation in quality is very high. Some people are extremely meticulous, well prepared, having prepared everything on Evernote, and as if they are preparing for a placement exam and they want the best package. They're that meticulous. Others are extremely sharp and completely unprepared, walking in very casually as if this is a test of their personality. All right. Okay. So this is with respect to this section. Yes. Last question. DAF 2, there is no option to add work experience. Have you gone through? DAF 1. So if you have not been able to fill up in DAF 1 any past experience. No, now you can only fill up DAF 2. See, this year, there is no summary sheet. Azad, last year, did we have a summary sheet? Summary sheet was there. In the board, did they have the summary sheet or did they have the full DAF? Huh? This page was there. So primarily the board always, summary sheet, was it generated? Yes. So there is a summary sheet which will be having these things. All right. And the home state also, right? The home state, the education and work these things, and this part will be what the other board members will be having. The chairperson will be having the access to the complete DAF. But questions will be from A, home state, B, your schooling, colleges, and work experience, and third will be this criteria. Okay. You have not filled up work experience in DAF 1, but you don't. They will only have probably summary sheet, but with the work experience column will be there. The educational and work experience will be there. Some students have this problem, ki, sir, I don't remember what I have filled up in the work experience. That says a lot. Hai na? All right. Summing this up, please remember, write practical hobbies, write commonsensical things. What is not required is not too much of a service-oriented that I am going every day to NGOs, helping poor, needy people. Also, do not write things like, which are sometimes not appreciated, is like helping the poor. I mean, because it looks as if it does not come across as good. Right, like some students, they end up writing that I like helping the poor, and because the reason behind this is very simple. There are in a 30-year career span, you will actually meet a lot of people who are working and doing a lot at the grassroots level. All right, and the ones who are working at the grassroots level, they don't say that they are working at the grassroots level. Remember the people, so I'm sure Pranjal, you have seen such people working at the grassroots level who will not say that I'm working at the grassroots level because they think that this is where they have to work. All right, the ones who don't work at grassroots level, they will always say that I want to work at the grassroots level, or at least they end up writing. It should not be very philanthropic. Hobbies are also not needed, that you are very selfless and all, and you are the second version, you are a second Mahatma coming in the country. That is not needed. Be like regular students, like a young person who is in his 20s or early 30s, who has their own aspirations and their goals. Very simple and commonsensical. Whatever you put here, you should be able to answer a few basic questions. It should not be met with a retort like, first of all, I have not done this, first of all, I have not done that. All right. Now coming to educational qualifications, right? have not. So with education, okay. So let us take now. Taken the with respect to the graduation, all right. So very simply, with respect to a graduation, please mention very simply the name of your college, the CGPA that is needed. Even if you do have, if you do not have a CGPA system, there is no necessary criteria to convert it to a CGPA. All right, if let's say you have 97% and the requirement is CGPA, then there is, every college has a formula where there can be a conversion done by multiplying it in a multiplication factor. You do that very well. If you don't know, you just write your CGPA or your percentage. Uh, 2-3 things that you must remember here is that first is, if you are from civil engineering, anybody from civil engineering here? Budget traveling and all right. Civil engineering, electrical, electronics. These 3 areas, you must be very clear. They will ask you questions. They will ask you questions, whether you prepare it in 1 year or 2 year, civil engineering, or electrical or electronics, point number 1. Second is, there is no justification saying that, sir, I work, but this is not in my syllabus. I study civil engineering, but this was not in my syllabus. That is not expected. Third is that electronics, let us say you have electronics as your, anybody from electronics? Yes. इसमें preparation अच्छे से करना. They will ask you question from electrical, and the answer is not accepted that, sir, first of all, I am from electronics and not from electrical. This is an annual ritual. I still remember a colleague of mine who is doing quite well. His father was in a high court and therefore a high court judge, and therefore our expectation was that isko number to mil jayega. He had done electronics engineering from BITS, and he had not studied. He had 5.1 CGPA, so civil services examination was the so he just had barely enough. What is the qualifying percentage for applying for this exam? Just pass, right? So he had a 5.1 CGPA and had not studied all throughout his college, like a majority of the people, right? Busy on forming the personality, but not on the education. And because he had decided that he will prepare for the civil services. 3 years, every year, and because he had not done it, he felt that, let me skip this part. Let me skip this part and not prepare it, because he felt it was a torture back then and it is a torture now. And all the 3 years, in the last interview year that he attempted, the first question, Diwan Sir board was there. The first question was there, which I remember that. I'm not sure if this was the question, and I'm not sure if, I mean, you are engineers, you will better make sense of it. But the question was something like that: what is the difference between an AC motor and DC motor? And unfortunately, in the third interview and the last attempt, he was the first candidate for the day. And he had not expected, he had thought that, okay, past 2 interviews they have asked me, but third time, it's not that you are unlucky all the time, right? So for some reason, his response was that, Ayush, I did not know what to do. I put my head down and said, sir, I have not read it. I don't know what it is. Then he again asked me, and after that, he started laughing, and he said that, at least say that AC motor works on AC power, DC motor works on DC. Okay, so, and every year after that, I have seen that some candidate will be there who will not prepare. Then next year again, I will see him and asking, is बार prepare किया? हाँ sir, prepare कर लिया है. Okay, so now there will be some exceptions. Some people will get lucky who will not have to face this question. Some people will fall from the Eiffel Tower and the bone will not break. But don't try it for yourself. It is better to prepare than not to prepare. Some people will get rank 1 and you will not know what they have ever done to achieve it. So there are 2 things in life. Either you will get it by kismat or by mehnat. ठीक है? So अगर किस्मत से मिलना हो तो अब तक मिल जाता. Class attend, coaching करने की ज़रूरत नहीं थी. You would be sitting at your home writing the exam and you would have gotten it at 1 click. Your destiny is there. If you're sitting here with me, then it is mehnat. Prepare those things. Let us not be in a civil engineering, electrical, electronics. They will ask sometimes PN junction also, as well as silicon wafers. Simple questions sometimes. Not past 2 3 years they have not asked, but simple questions even like Albert Einstein got prize for which theory, and then some students will, because they have not prepared, they will say, sir, theory of relativity. Then they will get angry that how stupid you are. You are from electrical. What is the theory of photoelectric effect of current? A very common question that is there. And he will say that, हाँ, बोलो. Mechanical engineering, you are safe. They have not seen many grilling of mechanical engineers. All right, they have not seen. See, there are few reasons why civil and electrical engineers are asked. One is that there is a member of the engineering service invariably, otherwise that level of grilling is not possible by a general person. With civil engineering, what happens is that anybody who has 30 years of experience in public service invariably has to work with some government, some sort of construction activity. All right, so therefore they also develop a very broad idea. Yes. You have a profile of? हाँ हाँ. Yes, so you can expect questions. Prepare the 5, 7, 10 questions on the steel sector and 5, 7, 10 questions on silicon. You prepare those topics very well. For example, what is the reason that we have to import, and even public policy questions, that why are we needing to import from China? All right, so you could say that, sir, then sometimes we use qualitative measures है ना, to ban import from China. We'll say that this is the size or the dimensions. है ना? Then what are the challenges why we cannot push for Indian steel by having very high dumping duty on Chinese steel? है ना? So you are living in Karol Bagh right now. You have Paharganj here. है ना? So there is a big center for making utensils. If steel, Chinese steel is made very expensive, and Indian steel, for example, is a little thicker, Chinese steel comes with a lot thinner. So you'll see that utensil makers will say that the cost of everyday utensils will increase. ठीक है, so ये सब चीजें आपको पता होनी चाहिए कि सर if yes, because Indian steel makers, they will make a little thicker. Steel की चादर थोड़ी मोटी होती है ना, and the imported Chinese one is, they provide it at a lesser cost and very thin. So therefore utensil makers prefer the Chinese steel for making utensils, because you don't need a very heavy plate. In fact, when you'd have walked into Karol Bagh, Rajendra Nagar for your civil preparation, and you would have gone to buy your first utensil, and if a steel one, your simple criteria would not have been the quality but the price of the utensil. कि चम्मच सबसे सस्ती, प्लेट सबसे सस्ती मिल जाए, और 1 1.5 साल में निकल जाएंगे यहाँ से. At least that is what we thought. ठीक है. So this is something that civil engineering, electrical, electronics. So you could be asked very simple questions in civil engineering, like how we can make earthquake resistant buildings, how we can make, or even these days there are pillarless halls. How are they making it? So you should be aware of these things. And what is the role of cement? What is the role of steel in building construction? What if we want a stronger building? Why can't we have just more steel? है ना, तो उसमें पता होना चाहिए कि सर सीमेंट इज गुड फॉर कंप्रेसिव एंड स्टील इज गुड फॉर टेंसाइल, है ना. तो ये सब चीजें आपको, मुझे कैसे पता है? बिकॉज स्टूडेंट्स हैव कम, दे हैव सेड दिस इज आस्क्ड, आई आस्क्ड व्हाट इज द करेक्ट आंसर सो दैट आई कैन टेल द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन नेक्स्ट ईयर. सो दे हैव गिवन द आंसर्स, सो आई आल्सो नो दिस. ठीक है. ग्रेजुएशन, एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस रिलेटेड टू ग्रेजुएशन? यस. Humanities. Yes, so if you have a literature background, then they will ask you, sometimes you will be asked questions. See, the first, what is the first, let us forget you and think of the rest of the class. Whose face comes to your mind when you think of literature? Okay, once somebody said, her it would be English literature. Ab batao. Huh? You are hearing these names, right? So, nobody said Shakespeare. So you could have an opening conversation with what are some Shakespeare's works that you have read. And all that glisters is not gold. What is Shakespeare in English? And why was it different from Indian? So all those things you will need to prepare. Okay, somebody said William Wordsworth, somebody said Keats, all these things. In then somebody also said Premchand. Simple, commonsensical questions that you have been reading English literature and there are not many students of Hindi literature who take up. So what is the reason for it? है ना? एक simple सा ऐसा question. It's not that a very hi-fi answer is needed. That board is extremely surprised, happy. If the board is very surprised by your answer, probably that is not a good answer. ठीक है? अगर कोई कहीं भी in Rajendra Nagar any faculty anybody says that the board was super impressed नहीं करना है. Normal commonsensical good answers if you give, we will get good marks there itself. है ना? See, there are 3 criteria what I would say. Okay, we'll take it in the next session. ठीक है? अभी let us move to. अच्छा, one more thing that I want all of you to be very clear with respect to graduation and educational qualifications. Please, some of you are always worried, especially those of you who have reached the interview, their worry will not be so much. But people who are generally filling up the form, they are very worried that, sir, I have very less mark in 10th and 12th. Will the board think X and Y and Z? See, your board's marks as a criteria for civil service selection is only as much as your board's marks is a criteria for arranged marriage. They will probably ask sometimes a question, but it will not decide your fate, who will you marry. Your 10th marks will not decide or 12th marks will not decide that. ठीक है, एक बार पूछ देगा, अगर सामने का 90% रहेगा तो पूछेगा एक बार कि 50 नंबर क्यों आए थे तुम्हारे. ठीक है, एक बार पूछ देंगे, but that will not decide anything. Be very clear with it. There are people who will get 51%, 55% in 10th and 12th and they have done quite well. Don't be, some people spend sleepless nights worried about this fact that mere 6.1 CGPA is in college, they will grill me and they will think I'm a bad student. That is not at all a criteria. In fact, when you meet a person, there will be so many things that you will like and hate about that his paper credentials often do not matter. है ना? ठीक है? So this is not with respect to computer science. Another is with respect to computer science. Chomsky's don't expect questions on compiler and all those things. That will not come. You don't have to worry and go back and read. Some students will be reading data structure pointers, null pointer. That is E. Balaguru Swami sir is no longer a member of the commission. He used to be before. He wrote a book and was also a commission member. But you won't get that question. Even his times also we did not used to get that questions. Okay, what will be expected is that what is India is an IT superpower and why don't we have an Indian Google or an Indian Microsoft? Indians will be heading Microsoft when they go there, but Indians cannot create a Microsoft in India. है ना? Changing trends, like why we are having an Indian Uber, we have Ola now. So what is changing? All right, these questions will be there. Why in cyber security, while we have such a vibrant population which uses the internet, why do we not have people or companies that are having offensive interest in cyber security? All right, these questions will be there. You will get broad and what you call higher level questions rather than going into the nitty gritties, what is a compiler and all those things. IT industry will say why Bangalore became a center for IT industry. ठीक है? अच्छा, service preferences, yes. Then with respect to cadre preference and home state, with respect to home state, till now, till this date, the commission has been very open and DOPT has been very open as to what is your home state. Any state which you deem as your home state can be your home state. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is generally domicile is a criteria for deciding your home state. So it is in most likelihood you fill up somewhere where you have paternal property or a permanent house. If some of you, for example, belong to, let us say, Uttar Pradesh, but have a house in New Delhi, you have the option of giving both Delhi as your home state as well as Uttar Pradesh as your home state. Even if you do not have a house and you have had some education in Delhi and you are from Haryana, people have given Agmat or Delhi as the home state. What not to be done? Today morning I received a call from student who is in service and he was from Tamil Nadu. And he wants to give UP as his home state. Now that will be a problem. If you are from Bihar and Jharkhand, you can give each other as a home state, right? For example, if you are from Bihar and want Bihar, and you know that you cannot get it from the insider category, then you give Jharkhand as a home state and opt for Bihar as the first choice. Okay, those things are doable. UP, Bihar, these things are doable. But Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh, they don't gel. All right. Andhra, Telangana, you can do that. Yes, go ahead. Mhm. Yes, yes. Secondly, don't announce and dance to the world and announce it, especially to your rishtedar, and second, to your friends or batchmates. As so, what happens is everywhere students get selected, they go to the foundation together, and just 1 year later, they realize that the competition is within. Okay, so you should never discuss it with any of your batchmates or your friends. What is your home state? Don't have an elaborate discussion, because the problem that will come is if somebody files a petition that on what grounds this person has declared a home state, then problem will happen. Then problem will happen. DOPT so far has not come up with any criteria apart from ordinary domiciliary, and frankly, for the past 2 decades, people have done this every year, including last year, at least 20, 30 candidates I know who have preferred this, like they want AGMAT and they are from UP, they have changed their home states. But it should, the disparity should not be so wide कि जब आपका list निकल रहा हो ना, then somebody says Sarvapalli is the name, and Sarvapalli would be from which state? Andhra, and then home state is Bihar. तो उस तरह की चीजों में है ना, your batchmates will, somebody who wants that state, he will create trouble. ठीक है? Not going against the esprit de corps of civil service, but this is what you should be knowing. ठीक है? So don't discuss it with anyone, not your relatives and not your friends who are appearing for the interview, or with after selection with your batchmates. फिर लिस्ट हो जाएगी रिवाइज तुम्हारी, अगर इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा you will discuss. राय रीति इसमें नहीं करनी है, ठीक है? And do not have very visible aspects where कि ये तो home state इसका हो ही नहीं सकता है. Having said that, if you have spent a certain number of schooling years in a certain state, because your parents were in a transferable job, then those number of schooling, because you've had your primary education, also people have claimed home state, and that is fine. Huh. Yes. Yes. So why would people resort to something a petty practice like this is because every state has insider quota and outsider quota. So insider quota for certain states, such as for example Haryana, they may be a little crowded. There are a lot of people clearing from Haryana, and they have opted for Haryana and nobody is able to get it. So what will be the smart move for a person from Haryana? What he will do is he will write his home state as Agmat and apply for Haryana. So therefore he will not be able to, he knows I will not be able to get it from the home state quota, therefore I can get it from the outsider quota. Alright, so that is the reason why I'm not trying to teach you Kautilya's ways and means. I'm just trying to be honest, and what is what I'm telling, not what ought to be. Okay? So that is why some students, and the commission is fairly liberal in these matters. And anyway, what states do not have any protections against their integrity. It's one India, है ना? एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत. So you can put it anything like that. Do not lose sleep over your graduation 10th, 12th marks. That is not at all a criteria. All right, and from these areas, yes. Huh. Don't tell me your home state. You said that if one's home state is. Huh. Huh. Yes, yes. No, there are people who have not opted for their home state and it has been fine. There are people who have not opted as their home state in the first and it has opted fine. It may look, it is completely dependent on you. If you are going to have chills and all nightmares every night, you home state nahi dala and the board is saying you are from UP and you have not filled UP. If you are going to have sweat and nightmares, then please don't do something like this. Otherwise, there is no problem. Okay? Yes, now coming to the cadre preferences. Or let us have the service preferences first. So, the first preference that you can be having is, you should be having is, Indian administrative service, by all means, I would want to point out here is that some of you may be in doubt with respect to these three services. So I want to clarify a few things here. That last year when I was, we are having a community meet, so I think Apala was secured 9th rank and she was the highest from who had opted for Indian Foreign Service. And she said, sir, everybody has been saying that you have made a mistake. I have opted for by opting Indian Foreign Service. See, the people who have opted for Indian Foreign Service, if you are passionate about it, take it up. If you, but foreign service means a few things. One is that in foreign, your quality of life will be decided by the country that you are living in, and it has nothing to do with your status in the country. Be very clear. So if you're living in France, which has a more egalitarian society, don't expect that you will have any VIP treatment. All right, don't have those unfair expectations that I will be the DM of France. ये नहीं होगा. ठीक है, वहाँ पर ordinary citizen, if you see that in Britain, the Prime Minister is also threatened by the parliament that you were partying when the lockdown was there. I'm sure you must be aware, you were interview appearing candidates. Boris Johnson was grilled by the parliament that you were having a party while the lockdown was there, and law is equal for everyone, and we will take police action against you. In a country where that is what democracy is, right? The police can take action against even the prime minister. है ना? So, if that level of equality exists in that society, then don't expect that you will get any VIP. You will not become the IAS officer of the embassy also. Be very clear. It is mostly like a private sector job for all practical purposes, until you get certain seniority where it starts to be very useful. So those of you who want to clear the exam because they want to clear at least one national level exam, this would be one of the reasons why people write this exam. Among the many reasons why people write this exam is कि एक तो IIT नहीं किया, IIM नहीं किया तो IAS कर लेते हैं. IIT का पाप धोने के लिए बहुत बच्चे करते हैं ये. So if IFS is something that you just wanted because you don't want any kitch, you are not very, you don't enjoy too much of giving orders and taking orders, IFS is decently good. And if you enjoy traveling, do that. Second point with respect to Indian Foreign Services, that in effect what often happens is, what happens is, with respect to male candidates and with respect to women candidates. So women candidates often face the problem that if they are married to a person who is in any of the services and is serving in India, then often you will see that while the women candidate had a lot of dreams of being a diplomat and being high flying, they often choose to have postings in India where the relevance is quite less. So therefore, they have to invariably make a compromise on the career aspect. There are also some of our friends of Forum and old members and women candidates who have chosen to be in foreign service, and they stay. Some are posted in US, in New York, some of them are posted in San Francisco. They have good postings, they have a good life, but there you will have to take a call on the kind of family life that you will have. So either of these things will take a toll, right? Either the family life or where you to get settled down with a person, especially for women candidates, where you to settle down with a person who's also from the civil service, or where you to settle down with a person who's not willing to make compromises to his career on the basis of your physical location or your posting. Having said that, the MEA is a lot liberal in making these adjustments for candidates who are selected for the Indian Foreign Service. All right, but that has to be very clear. Then the Indian Police Service, it is a wonderful service. And the pros are obviously that Indian Police Service, it is a uniform service. The one reason why you should offer this service over another service, there is just one reason, and that is passion. There is just one reason, and that is passion. That if you are obsessed with a uniform service, you can go for preferring for IPS over other services. But the only justification can be that I'm passionate about policing. All right? There is no other justification such as I have more powers or more autonomy or more anything. Whatever the IPS can do, the IS can also get done. Whatever the IPS can do, the IS can also get done with equivalent positions. The police service is a little challenging service. You have read about police reforms. So those police reforms, mean that this is a challenging service. If you are passionate about uniform services, and if you enjoy policing temperament, if you have it, you should go for IPS on the basis of rationality. Or if anybody says that the real change maker is the police, then this is not the reason why you should go for it. Okay? But if you are passionate, and I will tell you this for life, that there can be, as you will grow in the next 5 years, you will have to make a lot of decisions. Remember that if you are going against the society, against family, against anyone, against rationality, it can be justified on only one grounds, that it was your passion. Okay? So it can, if you really want something, there should not be, then forget about rationality. You can always choose, between dil and dimag, one thing. If you have to take a call, see, if you will take a decision from your dil, you will be happier. If you take decision from your dimag, you will be more peaceful. Okay? You will be more peaceful. So if you think that dil agar aapka hai ki IPS opt karna hai ya IFS opt karna hai, you will opt for it. And before this session, a few days back, I spoke to one of my students. He had secured a good 27 rank. And I asked him that you opted for foreign service. In this class itself, he had taken these classes. So I said, are you happy with it? He said, yes, sir. I do not have regrets. Don't opt for Indian Foreign Service as the first preference over IAS. If you think that uske selection के बाद 4 लोग चाचा मामा आकर बोलेंगे, अरे IAS नहीं opt किए, you are the idiot and most dumbest person on the planet, and you are going to be influenced by that decision, then don't opt for IFS as the first option. All right, is that clear? In case of any doubt, dilemma, or all other things, by default, go for IAS. Why? It is the most powerful position through an open competitive examination in this country. For anything above the IAS, you will have to contest an election. Okay? Now, so the ordinary placement I got of services, I would say, is Indian Foreign Administrative Service as 1. If you are open to foreign locations, all right, then you could put this as 2, or people put this as 2. In my own family, for example, when I had to fill a DAF, I asked my family member, what would you want? And she said, I would prefer police service. I would say you better fill IPS as the second one and not IFS. All right. So it will be completely guided by your. Now we come to the fourth service, and an important point here also arises. The fourth service, as of now, this service after these 3. So this DAF is of a female candidate, which is why you'll see that foreign service has been given the 4th preference, and this service has been preferred because she would have felt that I will not be able, or she would have wanted a job within the, yes. So after this, the 4th service that will be there is, Indian Revenue Service, that goes for Customs and Excise, is easily the 5th service. There can be n number of arguments for all these things, a lot of pros and cons, that we will not go into the merits and demerits. Broadly isko samajh lo. In the lower service, whichever you go, there can be deep analysis, but dukhi sab mein rahoge. ठीक है, मतलब you will not meet somebody who's gotten service number 17 and say that I wish I had service number 15. That has not happened. ठीक है, तो एक एक करके. Then 4, 5, then 6 is by all means the Indian Audit Account Service. ठीक है, this is a perfectly good service. After this, we generally take. After this, it's a downhill journey from here. Whatever you take, you will be a little dissatisfied. थोड़ा सा यहाँ से decide. By till this time, you could say why audit account is a wonderful service is because there are a lot of deputation opportunities. Deputation opportunities, World Bank, all these things, and a lot of learnings are there. After audit accounts, if you see, there is, most people have gone for civil account service. All right, after audit accounts, most people have gone for civil account service. Then there are 2 services. One is the Defense State Service and the Defense Account Service. So these 2 services, they have completely different states. All right, Defense State Services, where you are the head of a cantonment board. You have a big premise. All right, you will get enough space to have pets and dogs and everything. Defense Account Service, you will be posted in metro cities, in good cities, in metro cities. Defense Account Service. Defense State Service, you will be posted not in metro cities, but usually in sometime mostly in remote areas. The good thing with the defense state service is that you will have a house that will be the envy of many people. You will be living in greenery. You will 10 साल तो life definitely बढ़ जाएगी, life expectancy बढ़ जाएगी because of the natural beauty that you will be living in. The ill side is that nobody, after the initial happiness, which everybody's parents say that once you get an IAS or you become X and Y Z officer, I will come and live with you. I can take it from me in writing. Nobody's parents in the past 10 years have lived with their daughters or children after they have been selected. All right. Unless you are married according to the preferences of the parents. That's 1 star mark. ठीक है, हाँ. If not, then you go for the next one. You can also write opt out. You can, yes, people have written opt out. I had people have written opt out, and when asked, you say that, sir, I'm not eligible for this service because of XYZ criteria. So that is why I opted out. So with respect to physical, there used to be, I would say, ki, yes, Danix will be there. Then there used to be the IRTS service, for example, visual. If color blindness and all is there, then IRTS was a disability. Now we are going to have what? IRMS. अभी आपके DAF में आ रहा है ये? नहीं, next year से आएगा. Very good. हाँ. RPF. Okay, just let us not jump the queue. So this is broadly some arrangement. ठीक है. So defense state services, people have gone for it, but with that big house, the big problem is that there is little avenues of promotions are a little less. So that is why after the big house, you become very happy, but then after like 7 years, you feel ki yahi hai bas. You sometimes, some people have a relation ki instead of being the owner of this house, I'm the watchman of this property. And so that day when you suddenly have that existential crisis कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ life में, है ना? ये challenges आते हैं हमारे, ठीक है? But that is with all things, all jobs in life. All right? Okay, so after this, yes, here I also want to say few things that you will have to make a choice with respect to these services. Danix and Pondicherry Civil Service and Police Service. How this should be placed in your order of preference. There are two kinds of candidates. Increasingly, what we have seen is that people, some candidates who are coming from, sometimes coming from what I would say is, let's say from rural backgrounds, and who would prefer to be in a role which has administrative power. Sometimes there are students who wish to have administrative power. They have often gone for these services even over IRS. Even over IRS because there is an opportunity of public interaction. So the plus with respect to these services is if you want public interaction, but be careful with what you wish for, you might actually get it. All right, we remember this, isko dhyan mein rakhna. So sometimes, for example, if in DANF service you will become an SDM as your first posting, and you will be, because it is an executive magistracy post, it is an extremely powerful post. On the ground, who will be shutting down these coaching institutes because of COVID or because of that? It will be the SDM. It will be the SDM. Okay? He has absolute power with respect to, all right, no other person can do that. He will be having complete powers to do that. That power he has, and which is why some people prefer and enjoy it. All right, those, especially those students who are looking for state services as an alternative to the allied services, they have also gone for these. And I would say that the kind of work is good in these. That is the plus thing. The negative thing is that our country or our system is so arranged that the hierarchy is very clear. This remains a Group B service. So one problem with Group B services is of access, which means that because in the administrative hierarchy, Group A services are higher and Group B services are lower, while the allied services officers, while the power asymmetry will always be in favor of the IAS, the secretariat will be dominated and massively dominated by the IAS. Like even if there are chairs arranged, then the chairs for IAS will be separate and for everybody else will be separate. This is not what should be, this is what is. So, all right, but allied services which do not have public interaction, they have one benefit, that they enjoy to some extent not the same seniority and promotion as the IAS, but they do have an access to the IAS. Like an allied service officer can reach out to his colleague or his batchmate from the IAS by simply sending a WhatsApp message or a phone call, and he will be able to get a response. But because the group B services for in below in administrative hierarchy, so that access will not be there, because the IAS becomes your administrative superior. So it's not like an SDM will be able to dial to a district magistrate just like that, even if they are the batchmates. All right. Second is promotion prospects will be less in Group B services. Don't, if you are planning to take this up, the one reason can be you want public interface. Secondly, you enjoy administrative roles. Like some people may enjoy a lathi chart, some people may enjoy a lathi chart, some people may enjoy कि चलो Karol Bagh market has to be closed. So go with policemen and enforce it. Some people may enjoy it very much. Some people may be completely incompetent at that role. Some people may prefer a desk job. This is an executive job, and it will remain so. All right, but it is a powerful job in their sphere. However, on the long, because this is a career service, by which I mean to say is people once who join the service do not resign and change jobs. Once you take public service as a career. So because of this, one challenge that faces is that because just right now before your session I called up, so I had a couple of students, who were in IRS, and they said, "Ki sir, make this clarification because our position and power is dwindling. So is it better?" And there is complete automation. It is faceless. So therefore our discretionary powers are all gone. Our seniors enjoyed all the discretion. But after they have reached the retirement age, they are bringing all the reforms that is taking away all the powers. So would you recommend going for DANEPS or DANEX, all these services over IRS? So there are some of our students who like to think like that. So because of this reason, I called another student of ours who's in DANEX. He said, sir, the prestige and power initially is extremely good, but on a long time scale, that is after 10 years or 15 years, because the job role does not change so much, and promotion prospects are very less, any other person in other career, they will be reaching much higher levels in terms of promotions than us. And so while the administrative, and it is likely that after 10 years or 15 years, the person who is taking up DANIPS or something may not enjoy the administrative powers as much as you enjoy right now. This may happen. Our motivations change with time. When you were a child, I could motivate you by saying that come to the class, you will get a dairy milk, and you would have a crowd. But today, if I call you that attend the class and you will get a dairy milk, दो तीन लोग कह देंगे dairy milk कौन खाता है ना? So motivations will change. So that is one concern where you will have to position this, which is why naturally a lot of people position this is at the end, because they think that now after this, a broader defense, state and defense account services, after which what we would say is corporate law. So after this, that the services are nearly, broadly, their importance is nearly the same. You will, and you cannot determine which one you will get. All right. So after this, among the good services is Indian Corporate Law Service. If you enjoy this RPF, if you enjoy, see this posting, this is good. Why? Because amenities are good. This RPF Assistant Commissioner in RPS, amenities are good, and you have some say in the railways. That is only if you have, for example, if you have been traveling a lot by train and you think that you're coming from a state where railways is the primary means of transport, you may enjoy this job. And people, for example, from Punjab, Haryana, who primarily resort to bus, right? उनको railways का importance ज़्यादा नहीं समझ में आता, they may not enjoy it. तो इसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा इसको prioritize नहीं करेंगे. These are good services. Then we have ordnance factory is coming right now. It's not coming, no? It's all right. It's already privatized. इसको हटा दो. इसमें recruitment बंद है. PT accounts and finance services. ये आ रहा है आपके choices में? ये आ रहा है, ठीक है अभी. इसको भी रख सकते हो. Information service is also fine. Trade service is also fine. I would say trade service, you can keep it above information service. But there is enough number of people who say both the things. But trade service, you can keep it above information service. One grievance of an information service office selected student was, sir, we only have to accept orders, we don't issue orders. So they had one grievance, you know. So yes, then comes AFHQ. So now that is, remember that your criteria for AFHQ will be guided by two factors. One is that it is a group B job. So where again there will be an access problem. All right, a group B and a group A job does have an access problem. The good thing is sometimes women candidates have seen that they have opted for it because you get to live in a big city. In AFHQ, any armed forces and defense jobs, apart from the defense state services, all right, you get to live in a big city, and there is that is one benefit of it. You can go for AFHQ. Otherwise, if that is one reason, female candidates have opted it earlier. Otherwise, you will keep it as a Group B service and almost at the end. But this is the another problem with AFHQ is that sometimes the first few postings are not as desirable as they could be. All right. Then these services we have done. What is left? Postal service is a good service. You can keep it where you could keep it after audit accounts, civil accounts, defense accounts. After that, you can keep postal service. All right. As of now, it is good. Don't meet me 10 years later and say that because of this man, I opted for it, and now the government is saying that we'll privatize the postal services. Why their role has increased is because in banking sector, posters has some responsibilities. All right. Okay. So this is pretty sorted. Now let us come to the yes. So I asked this question to senior officers also before this. They said, as of now, the situation as it is, IRS IT will be before IT customs. There are, at least every batch, there are some people who have opted for customs. Out of 20 people, 1 person has opted for customs before IT. That has happened, 1%, but not major of them. See, the cons is that in customs also everything is very clearly codified. It is written down. So the discretionary powers are less. See, right now the debate is going on whether customs, see, customs has certain laws. For example, this ED and all, they are coming in, customs officers are only doing it. So that is the reason why some people have opted for customs. Apart from that, I would not say that there is any cons. What most people have told is that conventionally, because IT has been upper, and their jurisdiction is wider. All right, because of this specialization of customs, slowly there is what you call specialization. The area of work becomes lesser and lesser. That is what. And another is that IRS IT has to deal with only the IT Act primarily. यहाँ पर अच्छे खासे legislations है जिसको पढ़ना पड़ता है. ऐसा बच्चे कहते हैं कि इसमें पढ़ना पड़ता है. But if you don't understand, so there is always, out of 10 candidates, 2 candidates will be there who would have preferred custom over IT. But I would not say that IT officers who have gotten income tax, I have not seen that they have said कि customs ले लेते. ऐसा नहीं है. And there are a few people who have gone for customs and have said कि IT is also fine. ठीक है? So sometimes also when choose, those of you who are passionate between IAS and IPS, if you are a lot in dilemma, is there anybody in dilemma here? So in some certain states, police is extremely powerful and very. So remember that students who have selected IPS over IAS, you will invariably see that on a 7 or 8 year time scale. If you have a doubt, you will not meet an IAS officer who would say that I should have opted for IPS. But you will meet IPS officers who will say that I enjoyed good, I had a good time with the uniform services. But now I think that even I would have opted for IAS, I would have been fine. Okay, so that is my logic for, apart from every other thing, is opting for IAS over the IPS. Okay, we can always learn from. Yes, now with respect to these zones, all right, with respect to these zones, today we will discuss this DAF and everything. Tomorrow, then the next session is on. You have a worksheet with you. Yes, उसको please भर के आइएगा, एक बार देख लीजिएगा इसको. The next session we will decode what is needed for the personality test. If we understand it and if we play our cards right, we will do quite well. Okay. Now coming to these preferences for the zones. Our preference for these zones You know the policy. It is very clear that you indicate preference. I'm talking about non-PH candidates. You indicate your orders for preference for the zones. The roster system will be followed. For example, if this is your first preferred, here I will try to see your seniority, your preference. If your preference can be allocated to you, fine. Otherwise, it will move to the next zone. Again, it will move to the next zone. Okay, from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, if something is allocated. Then after 5, it will again go back to the zone number 1 and your second preference will be taken. Okay? Second thing, with respect to PH candidates, the circular has said that if they opt for their home state, if they opt for their home state, for PH candidates, if they opt for their home state as the first preference in both the zone as well as intra-zone state preference, then they will either be given the home state or the second choice in that zone. Is that clear? If you have opted for the home state, you will either get the home state or guaranteed you will get the second preference in that zone. Okay? Now, very broadly for the IAS, I will tell you which is to be done, but this is a very generalist thing. It will all depend on your location. Okay? So if I were to give which of these cadres is, let us take the first zone. All right. So the first zone, be very clear that the most hotly contested states are Haryana, Rajasthan and Agmat. Rajasthan, Haryana and Agmat. If you are looking for staying close to Delhi, and do not want to miss on the perks that come with the job, Haryana does remain a winner. If you are very clear that I have to stay close to Delhi, if you are having family members in Delhi, and if you want to stay close to Delhi, or if you had your social circle in Delhi. Otherwise, Rajasthan is something that you will opt for. This again will be done on the basis of what is your home state. Okay? After this, definitely by all means, Agmat remains the most preferred. Then the least preferred in this zone, again least preferred for a normal candidate coming from central India. All right, not for people who have the least preferred remains. So I'll give this, let us say I will give this as the first, this as the second, this as the third, and this number can vary. All right. Sixth will, let us say we'll put sixth here. Why? It is a small state. It has a small cadre. And right now, if you see, it is having very less number of districts and too many officers are there in the state right now. So promotion prospects are a little clouded right now. Okay, so by default, this is again higher. We have placed Punjab at 4 and Uttarakhand will remain at 5 for this zone. Is this clear? Then for this zone, if you are from Bihar, obviously, whatever is your home state, you will prefer it. All right. If you are from UP, you will prefer this. Let us say you are not from this zone itself. Then broadly, this state becomes the most preferred state. After this, who are not from this area, they have also preferred this. Who are not from this zone, they have preferred Jharkhand. Between Bihar and Jharkhand, the choice has been there. So Bihar is a more politically sensitive state where the Mai-Bap culture is more there, and also the burden on administration is also very high. In Jharkhand, to some extent, it is a little industrially developed state. The basic infrastructure is also to a great extent in place. The population pressure is also a bit less. See, few criteria for deciding what state you should offer should be, one is the kind of politicization or the domination of regional parties. It is for an all India officer, you would not want to have it. The too many regional parties, they create challenges for all India services officers. The second is that heavy population. A state which has heavy population, which means that I have a friend, a very founding member of Forum, and I remember that very nicely, she said that for one district collector, you have to deal with 14 MLAs. in a particular state. 14 MLAs, one district collector has to deal. So that is a lot challenging. You see that अगर एक महीने में एक बार भी सबसे मिलो तो आधा महीना ऐसे ही निकल जाएगा आपका, ठीक है. One district collector, because we have one person, one vote. All right. So therefore, there could be a district where the district is made and you are having 2 MPs. It's very challenging, right? Too many competing claims. So if it is very heavily populated or densely populated, that is one criteria why we would not opt for it. The third criteria is the what I have, which I will be telling you. The third criteria is the number of good towns and cities, urban centers that it will have. That will provide you some sort of good work and life balance. Students who have gone to states which is having less development, after 3 or 4 years, their grievances have been that while there is a lot of power that administration has, the burden is also too much on administration. So you will not get breathing space. That is what they have said. Secondly, they are unable to find avenue where they can go out with the family and they can have a break from the work and have a good family life. That often takes a compromise. So my reasons are these. Some of you would want to go for the most underdeveloped states because you want to work. I would say to you here is that India is still a developing, and to a great extent a lot of parts are underdeveloped. If you are wherever you are, you will have enough avenues to serve the people. You do not have to choose the most backward district just because you want to serve the people. You will get this avenue across the country. Somebody who's posted in Delhi, he also has enough avenues to serve the people. All right. So that is not lacking in any part. You cannot, yes, where some people will say that the most backward areas are ones where there is other institutions are not functioning, the people are not able to ask questions, and administration has too much discretion along with the responsibilities. Those are the backward areas where everything the administration has to do. You will not get an Airtel connection and then the district collector will ask the private company ki bhai internet de do yahan par. That are also some areas where we have those. Okay. With respect to this, I would say that the most preferred state will be here, this one. People have opted for this in 2 or 3 position, and 2, 3, 4. If you are, because Odisha have kept it last because of the language problems that you may have. But there are candidates who have preferred Odisha before Bihar because of the peaceful nature of the political system in that state. All right. So that will be your criteria, your tipping point. In this zone and across, I will say that this is the best state across the country if you want to be an IAS officer. This is the Madhya Pradesh state, is the best state. Least political interference, not too much population. Areas where you can work, you will get a lot of freedom to work without having too much political pressure. It also has enough number of good towns where you can have a good work-life balance. MP is a wonderful state to be an IAS officer in. Okay. In this, number 2 is, what I would say is Maharashtra. Number 3 goes to Gujarat unless you have a language problem where the case will be Chhattisgarh. Unless you do not want to learn, if you do not like Gujarati dishes and you are not willing to learn the language, all right, so this. In zone 4, there is some concern, there is a lot of dilemma and doubt. Between Assam, Meghalaya and West Bengal, they are 2 competing cadres. All right, so West Bengal and Assam, Meghalaya, see, West Bengal has one big plus that it has Calcutta, a major metro town, which does, because after the initial years, you will likely be posted in a state capital. All right, so these states, however, but the challenges with West Bengal are also, one is that heavy population, other institutions do not deliver, therefore the burden is on the administration. Third is excessive local politics is a big problem, extremely big problem. Fourth is that because so many people so many officers want exodus from the state government has refused to allow even legitimate transfers from the state. Such as, for example, by way of marriage, if your partner is from another state and you are from West Bengal, the state has been very reluctant in granting any relief. The state has been very reluctant in granting relief to go on central deputation also. It is not willing to release the officers who are currently working under it. Lastly, as I said, this state also has heavy population and number of local politics is extremely challenging. But lastly, another factor that is that the promotion till the to the district magistrate is extremely slow. While I would say that 13, 14 batch officers in almost every state, they have become district collectors. And not right now, like 3 years back, those officers are yet to become district collectors in West Bengal. All right, Assam, Meghalaya, 17 officers, 16, 17 officers, even they become district collectors. But even 13 batch officers in West Bengal have not become district collectors as of now. So which is why, and anyway, the states which have communist political systems domination, they are a little problematic. All right, there. So here the number one preference ends up going to Assam, Meghalaya. You people have kept this one. So here, most people have opted for, these are 6 of them. So this has gone because of the instances of violence. So this has been given 6th position by some students. This comes, Manipur comes after. Sikkim, Tripura are actually good. People have opted either for Sikkim or for Tripura. I would say Tripura is good emerging cadre. Sikkim also you can keep here. West Bengal, you could keep at 4 position. All right. Any questions here? Then the last one. Here, by all means, Karnataka stays to some extent, unless you are, for those who are outsiders from this zone. Karnataka stays a top choice in this zone. Number 2 is shared. The last choice remains Kerala. All right. Promotion prospects are slow. Politicization is there. Bureaucracy is not as empowered as in other states. That is the reason. Andhra is 2 and this is 3. Language biases are there in Tamil Nadu for people from north, therefore this stays. All right. Now, with respect to the zones, if overall you will see, then the first zone preference should be where your home state is. If it is not your home state, then broadly I will say that for the first position, the top contenders will be actually this. Then it is this. Again, this has a North Indian bias as of now as we are talking. Third position goes to this, fourth goes to this, and fifth position goes to this. All right. If we are from south, our first preference will be this. The second preference, to some extent, will be this. The third preference will be this. Then 4 and 5. Is this clear? Now coming to the Indian Police Service, very quickly, what will be our criteria? हाँ बोलिए ना. Yes. हाँ हाँ. See, actually, there the domination of the language problem is the primary, that becomes the deciding factor. Apart from that, vis-a-vis other states, Andhra and Telangana provide better prospects for civil service. And the civil bureaucracy is a little more empowered there. All right, in Andhra and Telangana. What students have said, right, who are working there. For North Indians, Tamil Nadu, language problem has become a dominating problem. Not in 2 terms. One is that the language is difficult, but there is, to some extent, there is an anti-Hindi bias in the state. You are from the state? that you can put that safely then. It has a good quality of life. It is as developed, Tamil Nadu and the other southern states are as developed as any, you could say, European states. You can say that, yes. Mhm. Coming from Uttar Pradesh, what will be your preference? Yes, zone 3 you can put it. This zone you can keep it as your as a viable zone for yourself. Yes. Yes, yes. Agmat is, you still have chances. See, the most in this zone, you would want to, sometimes people opt for Agmat because they know that Agmat can be gotten. Haryana, for the past 10 years at least, I remember, when one candidate, the rank 1 was from Haryana. Okay, last year they got, but 2011 also rank 1 was from Haryana, they were not able to get it. Okay, last year, last to last year they've gotten. Okay, so agmat is something that people prefer because you know that there they will not be able to get this. Secondly, people end up putting Punjab. Why? Because they think that Punjab will be, at least Punjab to mil jayega, otherwise it will move to the next zone. Okay, so you can use these permutations and combinations. You think also, so this is something that is given, but these rules you may not fully apply because you will try to use your Chanakya Buddhi, that you try to predict also some extent that you know that Assam, Meghalaya and Bengal will not be, and you don't want to, let us say, migrate to this. Or from here, you don't want to migrate to the next zone. So if you want a certain state in a certain zone, and or if you have a negative bias against a certain zone, then we prefer in the existing zone. Let us say you don't want to migrate from here to here. You know that everybody will fill MP, it is very difficult to get. You will see that under top 15, people will fill MP. And so it is very difficult to get, so you fill up Maharashtra. So Maharashtra you will definitely get, otherwise you will have to move into this, और पता चले कि इसमें मिल गया. ठीक है, so people do this. That MP will be hotly contested. Maharashtra, you are worried that Maharashtra nahi, kam se kam I don't want to go this. People have gone for Gujarat also. Very popular forum member. I saw him get Gujarat cadre. So I asked him why. He said I wanted to stop there only, so I put Gujarat as the first option, so that otherwise पता चले कि इसमें कुछ मिल गया then there is no way apart from marriage to change cadres. हाँ. You are from Haryana and Punjab, you can fairly opt for Punjab. Rajasthan is Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, they are two states which I find is that they are the best for civil service across all parameters. But if you are familiar with that area, you will enjoy Punjab more. No, I'm saying with respect to the position of the civil service. Okay, Rajasthan is a little, see, the reasons, these are not good things to say. But the point is that civil service as a body polity enjoys preeminent position in states that are misgoverned and do not do well on the economic prosperity front. Civil service is more powerful in states where the states are economically backward. Punjab is economically does better than other states. So therefore, the position of the civil service is comparatively lesser than what would be in Rajasthan. Also, the political interference in Rajasthan is also not there. Not there in Rajasthan. Punjab, yes, you have. But not to the extent of the, yes, yes. It will not be to the extent of that state. So, see, what happens is, one question that he's asking is, ki let us say I have opted out. Let us say here, something like here, opt out is written. I have filled up 1, 2, 3 and opt out. All right, from what I know and from what I have been able to understand is, so let us say you actually 1, 2, 3 is not there. You are, the roster is moving and you are now 3, till 3 you have not gotten. And now you have gotten what? What? Opted out. So what does the circular say? Yes. Then yes, so you will not be allocated, and you that cadre allocation will no. So you'll not. It's not that you will not get that service. From what the circular what I have read, it says that if you have not opted, then your cadre allocation will not be done. It will be done at the end. हाँ. हाँ हाँ हाँ. You have given UP, you have not gotten it, then you have gone to the next zone, next zone. Huh. No, so if in the second, let us say one iteration is complete, UP is exhausted, you did not get it, you move to the third, fourth, fifth zone, again first and second zone, then it hits an not opted for. Then you will be counted as, if you will, so this moves in a roster system, by which I mean to say UP, you did not get UP. It went below, you did not get there also, the first choice. The second choice also you did not get. The roster has moved to 1, you did not get, now it comes to 2. And in 2, first was UP, which you did not get in the first iteration, now you get not opted for. Huh. Okay, if you, no, so you were saying that, yes, no, but you will be granted given not opted, no, because that is available. You will be given not opted. That. हाँ हाँ हाँ. आप ये कह रहे हैं कि उत्तर प्रदेश मैंने डाला है ना, उसके बाद क्या हो, और दूसरे में बाकी मैंने एक भी नॉट ऑप्टेड डाला, यूपी डाला और बाकी सारे नॉन ऑप्टेड डाले हैं. Is not opted. You have filled Uttar Pradesh as 1, the other is opted out, opted out, opted out. ठीक है, तो zone 3 पर जाएगा. ठीक है, first time they will see, they'll try to give you UP. Then if not UP, then it will go to zone 3. If you get something from there, that is not the problem. You will go to zone 3 even if you fill opted or not opted for others. You'll go to zone 3, they will try to give you a next first choice from here. If first choice is not available in the first iteration, then the first choice of zone 4 will be given. First choice here is not available, first choice of zone 5 will be given. Then if not available, then second choice of zone 1 will be given. If that is not available, then second choice of, no, that is not there, so this will be given, which means that you have opted out. Now you will be, so that will be given, and the problem is then you will not be allocated a cadre, and your cadre allocation will happen at the end. No, it will not. No, otherwise, so it was very easy for other people. No, you will not switch to zone 3. It will be said that the candidate has not opted. Otherwise, it was, huh? No, IAS service will be given. Service will be given, but cadre allocation will happen at the end. Yes. So what Kootaniti, the best that you can do is that before reaching here, you are afraid of this zone, so you will try to get something here. All right, that you will try to get something here. Okay? If in the first iteration the first choice is not given, then second iteration the second choice will be given, which is not opted. Then you are granted, what will be the simple rule says that the candidate has not opted for a cadre, therefore the cadre allocation will be done after all the choices of other candidates are considered. No. So what you can, if you want to do, you could do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 could be not opted. Okay, at best. Okay. So remember this. But if it hits this, then not opted will be given, which means that the candidate has not. So here you will reach likely in 6th iteration, no? But that iteration is very common because the cadre strength, every year so many people are going to West Bengal. The cadre strength is very much there. Also, remember, this thing is also there that when we fill 99 to unselect any of the zones, then entire all the selections are getting, है ना? Yes, so you see the problem here. If you are not opted has infinite seats. Not opted has infinite seats. It will not test that anybody else. Not opted has infinite. If the first instance, if the roster hits at not opted, you will be given not opted and then at the end. So a lot of candidates, sometimes it happens. Not opted will happen in what case? If you forget to submit the service preferences at the right time, then also not opted will be there. Like for example, when these changes were happening, rank 2, if you remember, of a certain year, forgot to submit the form and was allocated not opted. So in the end, when the cadre allocation happened, Kerala was having a vacancy, so Kerala was granted. And Supreme Court did not take it up. Okay? Lastly, for the IPS, what will be the criteria for choice of states? See, yes, one criteria for is for IPS will be that commissionerates will be important. Why commissionerates? Because in that a lot of civil powers are given to the police. Commissionerate systems. A lot of civil powers are given to the police. That is, secondly, the commissioner is not reporting to the civilian counterpart such as the IAS. He does not report to the, his CR is not written in a system where there is no commissionerate. The reporting of the head of the state polices, district polices, with the district collector and magistrate, who writes his CR, which means the character record is written by the CR. Therefore, that is the tool of control. In commissionerates, it is not with the district collector that the CR of the commissioner will be written. Okay, so commissioner states are preferred. Secondly, with commissionerates, you will try to prefer states which has strong police as an institution. What do I mean when I say that? States which have invested in the police infrastructure, empowering the police, and which have strong what you call policing culture. Policing culture or uniform services have good respect. These few criteria will be there. है ना? What do I mean when I say that a state has invested in the police? Not, that's a very far-fetched. ठीक है, साइबर सिक्योरिटी बाद की बात है. आपके कांस्टेबल के पास बाइक हो कम से कम, इतना empowered हो, है ना? In some states, the police infrastructure is poor. Your constable is on a cycle, the criminal is in a Scorpio. वो कैसे रोकेगा उसको? ठीक है? He will not feel empowered to stop a Scorpio. पता नहीं कौन निकलेगा, है ना? Whereas some states they have invested in the police machinery. You will see that constables and the local level police will have good bikes. That level of infrastructure is there. In some states, you will go to a remote police thana, grass will be growing on the inside the thana itself. There will be no fan. They will have light, nobody is paying attention. There is that lack of misgovernance. In that case, the police will be a lot demoralized. It will be difficult to run the state law and order with such police force. ये challenges रहेंगे आपके. You will have such problems. You should feel that your police machinery institution should be very strong, such as, for example, Delhi police. Now, Delhi police does not worry who, if they have to take action against a person, they will not be very worried about who it is, right? है ना? Unless it is somebody who has access to some union, they are not really worried. They are not worried about any lesser people. Or, for example, Maharashtra police, Bombay police, not Maharashtra police, Bombay police. All right, it is easy for them to take action against even the very powerful people. The sub-inspector who will be reporting or the SHO, he will feel very empowered to take action against a very big man. He will not even see which vehicle he is traveling. You further go down which are having less governance. The police will not, your constable and SI, you will tell him arrest a certain person. They will not go only. वो कहेंगे हाँ सर जा रहे हैं, everybody is scared, है ना? Why? Police is not strong as an institution. ठीक है, so we'll try to, so therefore what will be the challenge you will face? Everything will come to you. Why? Because lower institutions are not able to work. ठीक है? So you will be as powerful. See, remember that between the district collector and magistrate and the superintendent of police, understand that in the Indian law, powers by default are granted to the district magistrate. And what the district magistrate does is, he delegates those powers to different officers. He delegates those powers to different officers, which is why he will also have that massive freedom to change the within the district. He can very well allocate one department and another to one officer and another department. He can change those departments also. If he feels that the transport department is not working, he can give the transport department to another magistrate or a deputy collector. That is the law. The powers are granted whom? To the district magistrate. But if you see the policing structure, the powers are granted to whom? Not to the superintendent of police, but to the thana, to the station house officer. Everything that will be done will be happening at the SHO level. That is where the power is there. And as the more powerful the thanas are, the more powerful will a superintendent of police be. Okay, so the superintendent of police derives his powers from these thanas, whereas the district magistrate has original powers and this delegation is to the other officers. The officers will feel as competent, as empowered as the delegation is done by the district magistrate. Okay? So here this will be some grounds. So by default, if across the zones, if you see, this does remain a top zone. Agmat cadre remains the top. Between here, Haryana remains top. This remains top. Then this mild variations depending on what you would want. Okay, they will remain. Between this zone, not that UP police has very strong institutional strength, that is not the case, but this, because of the strong cadre preference, you have so many officers, this is the first. Number two, generally, here it goes to, sometimes people go for this over Jharkhand. What is the reason is because of the Naxalism problem. In the past 2 terms, since 2014, we have seen that Naxalism is dwindling and the state has taken very strong action, which is why, yes, there is also the problem that what is the level of violence in the state. 2 kinds of violence in the state. One violence is political violence, the other is secessionist violence. Okay, 2 kinds of violence. States which have political violence sometimes are preferred because police has more power. Where there is secessionist violence, sometimes it is not preferred. Anyway, in this one, this remains. Then, if the language is not the problem, Odisha wins. Otherwise, in this one, the number 1, you could say, because Maharashtra becomes a more important state because you have Pune, you have Nagpur commissionerates, you have Bombay, Mumbai police commissionerate. So Maharashtra becomes more preferred. If you want to prefer MP, you can prefer it is a peaceful state. होगा ही नहीं कुछ वहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा. ठीक है, तो you will never hear much of MP unless there are elections, है ना. But and in UP you will have every day something happening. मतलब कुछ नहीं होगा तब लगेगा कि कुछ दिक्कत चल रही है क्या, है ना. So then people have gone for this because Gujarat police is empowered. And then people have gone for this also because of this reason. Yes, in this one, here this does remain more powerful. Some people have also opted for here because police does fine here in the state. Police officers who are there, they feel more empowered compared to even their civilian counterparts. The reason is that there is political violence. All right, so the chief ministers and all, they will often call up not the district collector, but they will end up calling the superintendent of police, the level. But if you want peace, ये best है, ठीक है. You can go for this one as 2, 3. Why have we written 2, 3 here? कोई गलत note down कर लेगा तो. Two, 3 or 2, 3 you can go for here. Then you can go for West Bengal and you can keep this as 4 if you want. This is 5 and this is 6. Here, see, the Karnataka remains a very well balanced number 1 position. You have but police is also very strong in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu police is also very strong. Karnataka, after that, Andhra, Telangana. You will not be wrong if you interchange this a lot. This remains the last. All right. Across the spectrum, if you see, if you're not from that particular zone, uh, if you're from the north, then your preferences are likely to be this. Then your preference here will be this. This. If you are from the south, obviously, this will be the first preference. Then the second preference will be this. Or, yes, third will be this. Fourth will be this, and fifth will be this. All right? All right, so this is all. Now you have a handout given. Video team. Handout PDF है ना, जहाँ भी ये डाल रहे हैं वहाँ online upload कर दीजिएगा, ठीक है? So you have a handout given. The next session will be on the psychology of the personality test. If you get it right, if you understand what is the demand of the interview, logically we will arrive at a certain conclusion. And if you get it right, you should be able to get a very good interview score. So you have a handout given to you. What you are expected to do is, you watch any 3 of your favorite interviews whom you think has given a good interview, all right? On YouTube, lot of interviews are available. I would say that एक दो लोगों का देखना, forum से जैसे Jaydev is there, Jaydev CS, 215 marks and 5th rank. So you can see, अच्छा बाकी का recording available नहीं है बहुत लोगों का. Or and from any other coaching wherever you want, you can see that. What you have to do is, after observing their videos, you have a certain checklist that is given before you. All right, you have a checklist that is given before you. You see, for every candidate, you try to see that what is, you rate them on the quality of language, their language proficiency, then the speed at which they have been answering the questions. Whether they speak very fast, very slow, their patience before answering a question. You see and observe. All right, be very objective with respect to your assessment. Preparedness for the interview. How well prepared according to you they are. Simplicity of personality and of answers. All right, the 5th criteria, simplicity of personality and of answers. The length of the answer. Did they dump the whole load, or were they very calculated in answering a question? Then their dressing. Their logical coherence. Are they saying random things, or is there some logical common sense in? And 9th is calmness of personality. Are they calm, or do you find them aggressive? Do it for 3 candidates and write down, after the analysis, write down what is the one thing that you liked about them. All right, we all learn. See, one of the dilemmas that some of you will be having, especially with those of you who are appearing for their first interview, that I have a very good personality, I have cracked Google interview, I have cracked KPMG, or I have cracked SBI PO, any of these ideas you will have in your minds. The civil services personality test will require a person of maturity who's able to be the same person as he is on the paper. Secondly, a simple person, what I have understood is, a simple person will end up scoring more marks over complex. Now, remember that all of us are very different. Some of us are very simple. They don't have the problem of overthink. If you ask them a very objective question, they will answer give a very objective answer. Some of us are extreme overthinkers. If I ask a simple question कि आज सुबह क्या खाया, तो उसमें भी नहीं बता पा रहे हैं कि they are not able to come to a logical conclusion कि क्या बोलूं. Because they are concerned that not what is their answer, they are concerned what I will think about them on the basis of their answer. ठीक है, massive overthinking problem है. You ask any simple question and they have a level 1 thinking, then level 2 thinking, and level 3 thinking. है ना? So some of the things that we'll say in the next class will be very obvious to some of you. And some ideas will be extremely new. For some of you, the interview is, because of the simplicity of your personality, is not a challenging thing. You will simply go and you will do a good job. For some of you, you will not understand only that why the board is not satisfied, and it will remain a dilemma. So for some of you who are having a little bit of complexity in their thought process, who have the problem of overthink, उनके लिए there will be some things that you will need to unlearn. है ना? Remember that what is very naturally coming to some of our friends, that will come to us with some difficulty. And what is very easily coming to us will come to some of our friends with more difficulty. This is a very normal thing. ठीक है, तो इसको appreciate करना. Next class we will have the psychology of the personality test. I'll try to bring up these forms and do this analysis for yourself. Remember, two things. One is that we will always learn more from our peers than our mentors. तो अगर हम अपने peers को observe कर लेंगे सही से, we will learn there is no complexity. My job is to just show you what is to be learned, and if you realize it, you will immediately be able to crack it, just like you have cracked the prelims. कुछ तो चमका होगा, prelims crack किया है ना? And if you don't realize it, then we will have some challenges. So we will have to work on them, and we can get a top score. In your times, number मिल रहे हैं, नया board है सारा भी. Last year was the first time some of the members appeared for the interview. So don't expect last year like marks, but you should at least expect 180, 190 ke below. It will be a challenge for you guys. All right, it is achievable. So that is all for today's session. All right, thank you so much, class. Yes, you can ask your questions now. Video team, and you can end it. If you have any questions, you can ask. Huh? The long. Let us come. Let me sit now. Let me sit in the cabin. And those of you who won't have any questions, वहीं पर आ जाओ. ठीक है? एक एक करके. ठीक है? हाँ हाँ हाँ. No, the one-to-one session will not be before submitting. After, what normally happens is that once you have a panel mock,